We started planting culinary and medicinal herb seeds about 12 years ago. We found a company called Horizon Herbs. They're now called Strictly Medicinal Herbs, and they had hundreds and hundreds of different types of medicinal seeds for sale. The wonderful thing is, you only have to buy the seeds once, because most of these herbs will self-seed or they're perennial, which means you plant them once or twice in a spot they like and they just come back every year. We love them. They're just part of the landscape now. So enjoy the video where I show you how I start my herbs in the winter, but understand that the secret behind that is having enough variety in your medicinal herb seeds that they're actually effective. They're the variety that is the one that works for whatever you're struggling with. Horizon Herbs is not an affiliate. I just love their seeds.
Graham, if you're too hot, why don't you get up and away from the stove? You could go somewhere else. Alright, these are all of my herb seeds, culinary and medicinal. And when I do herbs, I use these little pellet pots. The reason for that is that when I transplant them into something bigger, it doesn't disturb the roots because I'm not tapping it or jiggling it or trying to get it out of those little cells. Instead, they're complete unto themselves. Hot water works better than cold water, and it takes a surprising amount of water to get them to puff up. Usually they're made out of coconut coir or something else that is easy to compress. Sometimes they're made out of peat moss. So these guys are just going to float for a minute while they absorb the water. I may have too much water, but probably not. It's amazing how big these guys get. As you can see, this guy's pretty much done, but this one is still soaking up, this one is soaking up, this one is soaking up in it. So I'm going to start with my medicinals. I like to use little bead containers for my seeds. And all of these herbs are going to go out into the hotbeds in February, if they're big enough. The hotbeds stay warm for months, and I cover them at night with a frost cloth, and so even things like basil and other warm weather plants do just fine out there. I do see that there's a few plants that I need to refill. Milk thistle. I need to get another packet of milk thistle. And a lot of these though have naturalized. The skullcap has naturalized in my backyard. The motherwort, the wormwood, bugleweed, comfrey, the gobo burdock, and mullein. Oh, my lovage has also naturalized. Lemon balm has naturalized. And for some things, even though I have them naturalized, like I now have a basil, a temperate basil that has naturalized. I'm still going to plant just to make sure that I always have it. So if for whatever reason one year it didn't self-seed, I would still have it because it's something I love so much. Alright, so I do want to do some Chinese celery. I always do Chinese celery because I use it in soups. Alright, quite a few in there. I'm just going to push them in so they're in good contact. And I always overseed. Here's some parsley. Make sure it's in contact and a little bit over. Okay, now I'm going to do some dill. And I will replant about every 2 to 3 weeks. Just to make sure that I always have some more coming on. So alpine strawberries have really, really sweet, nice fruit. And the plants themselves are really small. And they are a strawberry you can grow without having to do like the starts, the plants. You can grow them from seed and it's just so easy. But they do better in the peat pots just because their little seeds are so tiny. And they grow better, not like just single seeded. They seem to grow better when they have kind of other plants to lean up against. And they're pretty easy to transplant. To me, this time of year, December, the end of December, the gardening is more just about getting started than about the initial results. You will get results. When you plant this much stuff, you will get some results. But a lot of times, what it's really about is just getting back in the habit of gardening. I need to go get some planting cells and bring them in, and I'll fill them with dirt, and then I'll put my vegetables on this side. We are -5 degrees Fahrenheit today. Keep going, Graham. Graham, leave the cat alone. Keep going. The snow is crunchy. I'm gonna feed the cats really quick. And then I'll go out and get, you can see the rabbits are not in their houses. I've moved the cages. I've moved the cages out into the greenhouse. As you can see, there's the big pallet hotbed I'm building. I moved the table out of my little greenhouse. I have put the new sawdust down. We had a batch of free sawdust come in. And this is where the rabbits are warmer and where the ducks and the geese can come in to get warm. But this is what I came out to get, was my my little individual seed things. I don't need a whole lot, just some. There we go. I think that's all I need, and I probably don't even need that many. A lot of times plastic that gets left in a greenhouse will melt and not be very happy. And this is kind of warped a little bit. When you get a good snow, it's not warm enough in here to melt the snow on the outside. Which is why I'm really excited about the hotbed greenhouses, is because I don't have to do that with them. There we go. That's a little better. I still got quite a bit stuck up there, but it really scares the rabbits when I have to come out and do that. So I try not to do it that much. All right. Hi, kitty. I fed you in your house. Go there. See, there's a little hotbed greenhouse. It needs to be recharged, and right now I don't have enough rabbits to recharge it. So that's why it doesn't have plastic on it. There's no point. There's my black gold. I really like black gold for my potting soil. I don't use potting soil, regular potting soil, when I plant the hotbeds, but for the starting of the seedlings, for things like herbs, I just use black gold. Alright, now that we have these little guys, we're going to put them in like this. And we'll be set to go. So I'm not going to put this in the bottom this time. I'm going to put it in the top because the other the little peat pellets are already full of water. I don't want to drown them or make them fall apart. So I'm going to water from the top this time. I think the nicest thing about getting your seeds started in December is that when it's time to plant in January and February, you have these little guys pushing you to get your hotbed started. And without their push, it's easy just to kind of put it off and be like, it's cold outside, I'll do it some other time. But hotbeds are so easy to start that it's really a shame if you don't get them done early in the winter, in January. They work. They grow food at -18 degrees Fahrenheit. So I do find it very important to have something alive in the house to remind me of the importance of getting things started. Once these guys have the water soaked back into them, they will hold it better, but in the beginning, it can be a little hard for this stuff to rehydrate. Any potting soil that you buy in the winter, it has a habit of getting really super dry and it needs to rehydrate in a big way. And so don't be surprised if it takes a day, maybe 2 days, to really feel like your soil is hydrated. All right, so what I want to start on this side is my onions and my tree kale from Plant Abundance, if you guys have seen their YouTube channel. They're perennial tree collard and tree kale greens mix. So these are the ones that grow for them year round, and they're massive and super nutritious. And having those kind of things on your property is huge. You want things like that on your property, and you want them to become naturalized and happy in your soil to the point that they always come back again the next year and have babies. And when you're doing onions to use as green onions that you're going to plant out to be big onions later, you want to plant them very thick. You want them to hold each other up in the cell. And I'm going to poke them in so that they're in better contact with the soil. You really don't want the soil to be big and puffy and lofty. You want it to be in contact with the seeds. What I've got here is lacinato kale. And these are some that are supposed to be the sweetest and nicest of the kale. So I'm going to put them in. I didn't plant those nearly as thickly as I did the onions because kale are massive. And I want to be able to split these guys without taking up a huge amount of space under my lights. And so these guys will need to be transplanted. All right, these guys are ready to go, so I'm going to put them under the lights. All right, these are the lights. They're Barina, and I got them from my mom. I did not buy them. I have used just windows before. I've used everything under the sun to pretend to be sun for my plants before. And they've all worked to varying degrees. I've had some lights that worked better than others. You want your light to only be like an inch away from your soil so that you have nice stocky plants instead of spindly ones that are reaching for the light. But we'll see how they do. Kaya did me some art on a piece of fabric to kind of protect our eyes a little bit from the UV. And this is what she made me for my birthday. These are radishes, carrots, potatoes, tulips, I think a dandelion. One row isn't really enough, especially on this small of a shelf. So you can see I've got another row here that's turned on, and they're all on one switch. When you're gonna grow plants and grow seeds, you don't have to do 16 trays. You can do 2 trays. And as long as you keep something in those trays all the time, you're good to go. All right, this is where we are about a week and a half later. We have some, well, looks like celery coming up. And these ones in the corner are strawberries. It's about time to fertilize these guys for the first time. You can see how these ones look a little dry, but these ones look pretty moist. I need to water these guys. I have been watering from the top instead of the bottom, just so that I'm only watering the ones that need it. These guys have their first true leaf. See that kind of jaggedy leaf right there? That's a true leaf, which means these guys need fertilized for the first time. The onions, these are the onions, are still working on coming up. When they come up, they support each other. If you plant them really close to each other, they support each other as they grow. You don't want to overwater anything. I think that's a sage, but I'm not sure. Everything's coming up, and I have my order into strictly medicinal seeds. We'll see how it goes. And the water that I'm using is lukewarm. It is not hot, it is not cold. And the reason for that is that the seedlings are sensitive right now to temperature. So, here we go. Next step, fertilize. I was up at 11:30. I was up at 11:30 until 3 something.
I go back at 2 o'clock and I thought I would not be able to go to sleep.